In Parshas Bo, we have the first mitzvah that the Jewish people are commanded, the mitzvah of HaChodesh Zelachem Rosh Chodesh, the mitzvah of making Rosh Chodesh. Rav Haminer in the Eved HaMelech, he explains that from the Rambam, that the main mitzvah is a mitzvah on the Beis Din to be Mekadesh the Chodesh, to inaugurate the new month based on the sighting of the moon. So in that sense, it's a mitzvah which we are not knowing so much today in that sense because we don't have a Beis Din with Smich anymore. We rely on a calendar and the months are set. But that this is the mitzvah of the Pasuk, is the idea of Beis Din making Rosh Chodesh, being Mekadesh the month. Rav Haminer brings from the Ramban on the Pasuk that Rishon hu Achem Echad She'ashani says there's a mitzvah to count the months based on their relationship to Nisan, meaning to call Nisan the first month, to call Iyar the second month. So, in that sense, I believe what he's saying is that even though today we have names that we brought from Bavel, the Ramban explains, this month is Shvat, he's saying it's a mitzvah to say this is the 11th month of Shvat. That to refer to it by its relationship to Nisan is a kiyum of a mitzvah of Rishon hu Lachem, of the second part of the Pasuk. It's the interesting mitzvah from the Pasuk Halacha L'Maisa. So, there's a piece the beautiful piece in the Sifsei Chaim of Rav Chaim Friedlander in his second Chelek on Moadim, where he explores why this mitzvah is the first mitzvah given to the Jewish people. And he explains that Kiddush HaChodesh was a new power that was given to the Jewish people, and it changed Hashem's relationship with the world in a certain sense. That before the giving of the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh, he says HaKadosh Baruch Hu was sustaining the world on Chesed, that Hashem just provided a constant hashpah, and for those 26 generations, Chazal say that corresponds to the 26 Hodu Hashem Kitovs in Kapitel Kuf Lamed Vav, just that Hashem did Chesed, the world stood on Hashem's Chesed, and had very little to do with our actions. But once Hashem gave us the power to be Mekadesh the month, now we control, to a certain degree, which day is Rosh Hashanah, which day is Yom Kippur. So we control a bringing of Kedusha into the world. So in that sense, there's a changing of Hashem's hashpah in the world based on Klal Yisrael, based on the actions of Klal Yisrael. So a famous idea he brings from the Gemara, from the Yerushalmi Ksubis about the B'sula and Chosrim, how it changes physical realities in the world. And there's a famous idea that from the time of Matan Torah, that our psakim in halacha changed the halachas in Shemayim, changed the realities in the world. But I reviewed Rav Friedlander making a different point, that there's an idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hashpah of how Hashem runs the world, I assume he means things like, if there's sickness in the world, if there's inflation in the world, if there's war in the world, a lot of it is based on the behavior of Klal Yisrael, in how good of a job we do in following the mitzvahs and learning Hashem's Torah. And that's something that was new, that was put into the Bria with HaChodesh Zelachem. Says this is Pshat in the Chazal at the beginning, Rashi brings the beginning of Chumash, that the Torah really could have started with HaChodesh Zelachem. It really should have started with this mitzvah. But there's a reason why Hashem started with Bereshis Bara Elokim. So Rav Haminer explains that obviously we need the story of Bereshis Bara Elokim. It's a foundation of our Emunah, but HaChodesh Zelachem is something which is so significant in Hashem's changing of how He creates the world. He almost refers to it like a new Bria in a certain sense, that it's worthy of being at the beginning. And he suggests, you can also say another pshat, why it's not because Hashem ran the world in that different fashion until Yetzias Mitzrayim, and it's only post Yetzias Mitzrayim that our behaviors already start to influence the derech of Hashem's hashpah in the world. And especially much more so, I believe, since Matan Torah, when it really changed the nature of how what we do influences and affects the world. Rav Friedlander suggests maybe this is part of why the Kiddush HaChodesh comes about through the moon. Because he says Klal Yisrael is compared to the moon, and in a sense, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hashpah in the world, before Yetzias Mitzrayim, before we were given this mitzvah, was like a constant, like the sun. The sun rises, the sun sets. The moon waxes and wanes. There are times that we have more light from the moon and times that we have less light from the moon. And so to Klal Yisrael, they have their ups and downs, and there are times that they bring better hashpah to the world and times that they bring lesser hashpah to the world, depending on how they do. And in that sense, the Levana is symbolic of our relationship that we have with the world, that in this aspect of it, of being able to choose which days are Kadosh to a certain degree, was inaugurated with this relationship with the moon. So just, we say in the bracha of Kiddush Levana, we say, Shem asidim eschadish kemotza, ufari yotzra mashem kavon mechusa, that Klal Yisrael is going to become anew, like the moon, and bring glory to the Creator on the covenant of Hashem's Malchus. And he says the same way that the moon will go back to being as powerful as the sun, well, asid lavo, they'll be the same again. So too, Klal Yisrael, when they go back to their greatness, they'll go back to their purpose, they'll bring this glory to the world. In that sense, we're compared to the moon. And he says the nations in Chazal are compared to the sun. They don't have this kind of effect on the world in their actions the way that we do. Post Matan Torah, we've been given a certain relationship, a certain control over the nature of the world. And it's an achrayus that we have. He brings that it's this communal responsibility, and it's also this individual responsibility that we have. So he's referencing the concept, from the most important concepts in the Sefer Nefesh HaChaim, in the first 4 prakim, where he gets into the idea of the name Tzelem Elokim. Why Elokim? Man is created in the image of Elokim, that Hashem is the Baal HaKochos, that Hashem is constantly created, that Hashem recreates the world, but the concept of Baal HaKochos is the idea that the world is sustained by Hashem's hashpah. It's not that Hashem creates a tree and now the tree is like locked into the world. The world needs Hashem's constant sustenance from the hashpah of the Creator, of the Machadish Betuvo, B'chuyam Tabin Bereshis, that it's tamid. There's this constant injection of the hashpah into the world that's sustaining it. And that man, in this sense, and now the Jewish people, that they have this hashpah on the world. That what we do is that our actions have this tremendous power on the world. That's the power of our Tzelem Elokim. Says that you could say such in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, Da Ma'al Ma'alimcha, know what's above you, know that what's above is from you. That your actions have this tremendous power on the world. That when you do a mitzvah, as the Messiah Shalom writes, it uplifts the entire world. When you do an Aveira, it downgrades the entire world. And in fact, the Jewish people, even as individuals, are plugged into the world on a very real level of the mechanics of how the world functions. So, Rav Friedlander just ends the piece by saying that it seems it was in Bein Hazmanim, and he was talking about the idea that we have to appreciate that, not to lose that connection to Torah, not to stop being mechazik in Torah, especially the month, he was talking about the month of Nisan, when all this hashpah is in the world. So I guess there's a new term that I first heard in 2019 called Yeshiva Week, which we're in right now, which I guess is a time where people are off from yeshiva, where children are off from yeshiva, maybe not learning as much Torah, maybe not being as plugged into the mitzvos, and just to be mechazik ourselves during these times of plugging into the Torah, plugging into the mitzvahs, appreciate the hashpah that it has on the whole world, appreciate the hashpah it also has on ourselves and on our families, and appreciate that that's something that was changed with the mitzvah, this mitzvah of giving the Torah that was given to us, of Kiddush HaChodesh, of this idea of that we affect the way Hashem is mashpia on the world, and maybe be zochet to be conduits and bring about, not conduits, but maybe zochet to facilitate Hashem bringing about good hashpah and elevating the world with our actions and our ways. Have a good Shabbos.